was. It was really well
I don't know
attended.
if I went to that one. You think people are just like over the conventions?
Yeah, they don't have any money to attend them, and they have all the things they need already.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't really understand the point at this point.
At this point, everyone wants to reach the consumer, but the only people, who are showing up is really each other,
Yeah, exactly. But like for me, I need to reach the B2Bs. So they're a good spot for me to be at, but also like, unless you see my product, it's really hard to understand it.
It's just the companies. It's just the vendors all kind of supporting each other, like you said, which is really cool to see, especially in the state, because I think it's kind of not everybody supports each other. But yeah,
I've seen a lot of commodity in New Mexico compared to other places. And I'm not talking about, I think more of the new generation has been pretty good. And
the new generation isn't bad. I guess they're they're harmless.
But we had our 13. We had the 13 like legacy, not legacy here, not legacy in the new term of legacy, but we had the 13 medical, right? The original.
Yeah.
And I think the people coming in after them who got their chance, like there's like a certain commodity and there's a certain energy about those groups coming in after.
Yeah.
As like, and I'm not saying we're like against those guys or anything.
Well, that's where the news is definitely pointing at. There's definitely a big like, oh, the over licensing and all the
I didn't write the statute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as a company that's feeling the saturation, I definitely think there's a level of oversaturation. I definitely think there should have been a cap. There should have been a little more.
But shame on them.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
And also shame on the people who got into this who didn't do their research. Well, because we had examples. We had Colorado. We had Oregon. We have places that are opening up around us and becoming legal. So no, this is your life savings. Maybe don't fucking do it.
Yeah. Well, and
that's all you have.
No money.
Well, and then, but two, like if you don't have $6 million that you're not okay with never seeing again, this is not your game.
Right.
It's not those days anymore.
Well, and so the original DOH, they actually made you show proof of funds. And this is one of the things that I think the old guys, the OGs that are bitching about it, they had to show proof of funds to start their cannabis company. And I think that you're bringing up a great point. Yeah, if you're leveraging grandma's house and you've got 4 loans from 6 buddies, like there's something wrong, and you might not be built for cannabis.
It takes 4 times as much money. It takes 4 times longer, and there's 4 times as many obstacles to overcome.
Yep.
Even the people that I worked alongside in the last full-time position, which was for like a celebrity brand, those guys came from a company like Crocs, where they were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. Oh, it's bad. And one of my first early on cannabis mentors told me, man, the thing about cannabis is it's a monster. And it's always hungry and it's never satisfied.
Well, the technology just keeps developing, and then by the time you've invested the $500,000 in that new equipment, the fucking new extraction method's out, and nobody gives a shit.
Right, exactly.
Well,
about what you're producing now. Like that's like old school.
Well, now with the market
bubble hash
change,
will always be good.
Yeah, with the market change now, I'm seeing people talk about like 2018, like it was the good old days. They're like, oh, back in 2018, you know what I mean? And I think that.
Back when I used to eat edibles and did not know what the effect was going to be, that wasn't fun for me.
Exactly. And I think the industry's come a long way, but the market has changed increasingly. And I do think there is a level of like oversaturation and people that
100%.
just are not supposed to be here.
And but they deserved the opportunity just like everybody else.
Correct.
And if they wanted to put themselves in that position, then they could. And then there's people like me, right? I've had 2 competitors that I know of that have tried to do similar things than me. One of them spent $64 million and failed, and one of them spent $7 million and did not make $1 and failed. Yeah. I got 0.
So with that statement, welcome to the farm table.
Hi.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for our viewers and people that are watching?
Hi, I'm Kady with Build My SOP. I'm the founder and CEO and cannabis activist.
Nice. And who are you?
Hi, I'm Candice Billy. I'm Director of Client Relations with Build My SOP. And yeah, thank you for having us.
Nice. Thank you for coming on. We don't have very many ladies on the podcast, so it's very cool to have you guys on. And I've heard a little bit about your company, and I think it's really cool. So what do you guys do?
Well, it's kind of all in the name. We build SOPs. So for your viewers out there who aren't, familiar with the acronym, SOP is Standard Operating Procedure. Nice. And we're here to preach the power of process. Yeah.
Well, and so talk about, oversaturation. So you're dealing with a lot of these mom and pops and people that don't necessarily have, educational background or whatever, background in knowing how to write SOPs and
or what an SOP is.
A lot of times how to even run a business, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you help those kind of people and those people, and you do everything.
Well, yeah, I have a deep passion for small business and entrepreneurship. That's, what my family's come from, every generation that I've been involved in. And so with that, I got an opportunity to work at a cultivation facility in Colorado when recreational was just rolling out of the medical in that state. So it was 2014, and I started as a janitor. And I worked every single job in between janitor and a top director for a national celebrity brand in the 6-7 years that I was on the field. And wrote SOPs for every single position. One thing that I don't have knowledge on is extraction. And so we did hire out wonderful lab technicians to, get those written out for our templates that we provide. But that was one place I stayed out of the kitchen because I had no interest in blowing myself up or anyone else.
I was really lucky, and like I told you before the show, is I had an incredible mentor, Dr. Miller. He's a multiple PhD chemist, and he, we originally partnered up, and I ended up buying him out. But he, fucking held my hand and completely navigated everything. Not only did he have a ton of SOPs made, written, and established, but he held my hand on anything I needed to do and got it to the point where I, can write my own SOPs, obviously now. But at the time, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So it was either he helped me or it wasn't going to work. And so he kind of looked at that, and he obviously wanted to be bought out. And he's like, oh, fuck, if I don't help him, I'm not going to get my money. You know what I mean? So it was
unless you're buying something with SOPs, it's just a really expensive building with lights and equipment.
Of course. And Doc is one of my best friends now, and he's a great guy. But and I definitely paid him off and did my end of the deal. But yeah, without his help, I would have been fucked. And so I can definitely see, the reason for having somebody come in and be able to kind of push the cheap button in a sense, or the easy button, whatever it is. And
it's like the start button.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of these operators, even just as simple as being a baker.
Yeah.
Right? Your passion is in baking, but you don't know what that looks like as a daily operation. You don't know what that looks like from an HR perspective, from an IRS perspective, from an insurance and banking perspective. And so we kind of give you that blueprint of here's everything you have to think about. Baking's just a little part of it.
And so many companies start without it, and they just start, balls to the walls, going, and they get going. And then
they never catch up.
Once some time comes and either the regulator or the IRS or somebody asks for, hey, where's this? And they're like, what do you mean? I didn't know I had to have that. And so I think, and a lot of times they're shut down, and worst case scenario, they're, out a lot of money or blah, blah, blah. Or they just don't succeed because they don't have any consistency.
There's no scalability. There's no homogenization. Exactly. There's no culture. Mm-hmm. There's too much turnover because there's no communication or workflow.
Yeah.
There's no. I go into facilities that have 9 different stores and 4 different other licenses, and I'm like, how are you guys? How did you do this? And then I look at the loss when I go in and do inventory recon. I'm like, oh, you're losing $500K a year in inventory. Oh, yeah. And then I go look at the turnover rate, and I'm like, oh, you're losing probably about $500K in training and turnover. So you're losing a lot of money.
Well, and we constantly hear investor horror stories of investors that have just lost their ass investing into cannabis because they invest with somebody that just doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. And they might smoke weed or know what's good weed or know what's what, or, they're the cool guy, but they have no fucking clue how to run a business. And at the end of the day, they don't know how to write SOPs. That's a lot, safety, anything.
They don't realize that a big issue for us here is water rights and stuff. Yeah. We have all these people coming in from out of state, and they're like, yeah, we got thousands of acres, and the worst part of the dirt we have,
So you have a lot of background in the industry as well, yes?
Yeah. So I was working with a legacy company making edibles. Nice. I have 15 years of experience in pastry. I went to Le Cordon Bleu a million years ago. Nice. And my whole goal was always to start up an edible company of my own. But now I have no interest in edibles. I'm terrified of them. Can't now handle them. But from there, got into sales and marketing, started helping the rec market here grow. And I've really grown a lot with all of these companies here in the state, seen it go from just the original 13 to the exponential number every day of it growing to the 1,000 plus we have now. And they've come a long way, and I'm really passionate about helping them. They need a lot of help. There's a lot of things they need clarification on, and everybody's struggling some way, whether it's financial or the oversaturation. But yeah, a lot of these mom and pops everyone deserves to play.
No, I think that's cool. And there's nothing wrong with paying for a good service. I've attacked, predatory ancillary companies in the past, but I've also shot out, amazing ancillary companies. Like our packaging guy is Vertical. They're fucking badass. Like we could call them right now in the episode and I could make an order. It doesn't matter what time, day or night. And they're on it, and it'll be here and it'll show up and it'll be right. And so they're a necessary ancillary business. So I would definitely...
and if they're educated in your needs specifically for cannabis, like that was one of the biggest challenges when everything was first rolling out, was no packaging companies having the knowledge of what you need.
No, my packaging guys are badass.
That's amazing. And it's an easy name to remember.
Yeah. Vertical.
Yeah,
no, check them out. Everybody, you guys go check them out. All your packaging needs. They're an amazing company. But yeah, and the reason they're an amazing company is because A, they're available, they're reachable, and B, they don't bullshit, they keep their word, and C, they deliver quality consistently over and over again. They're a direct line to overseas, and they're just something that has been a power tool, I guess, in our arsenal and the way we do business.
Sounds like we align a lot of values there.
Yeah,
us and Vertical.
There has to be an exchange of value. My wife talks about it constantly. There has to be an exchange of value in business, in any relationship, no matter what, from friendship to romantic relationship to business. There has to be an exchange of value. It can't be one-sided. It can't just be, I give you money, I give you money, I give you money, and I don't get anything in return. It has to be whatever. I give you time, I give you whatever. There has to be something in return. And I think that so many of these companies don't realize that if they want to succeed and they want to stick around, you might be able to smoke and mirrors and fucking fool somebody. But if you want to stick around, you have to actually exchange value. And once you do, you're set.
We talked about that at our NCA training. Like, nobody's doing anybody any favors here.
Yeah.
Right? Your employees are showing up to
What's
a job.
NCA?
We had a notice of corrective action training that we held last week.
Tell us about that.
Just how do we deal with receiving a notice of corrective action, and how do we set ourselves up so that we don't even ever receive one?
So what is that? Let's say I'm Joe Schmo, Albuquerque business owner, and I got this notice of correction of actions and I didn't even do anything. What is this?
Well, you're going to know that you're going to get it because you're going to have an inspector come on site.
Okay, so it's once the inspector came.
They're either going to do a walkthrough, like an audit, and get you on multiple violations, or they're going to go in there and look for one thing, and maybe that might have been a big enough thing that they're going to walk away and say, fix this before we come back.
Okay.
And then have your other things together.
Yeah. So I mean, and I'm sure you've probably seen a spot that got inspected without their owner. And, their employees I'm
That's
an owner.
That's why we have facility management SOPs that talk about exactly how every single manager needs to know how to prepare an audit, like how to prepare to deal with a regulator. There's 3 answers you have: yes, no, or I don't know. Let me find that out for you.
Awesome.
Because I would rather get that answer or give that answer than say something that could potentially put me at risk.
Yeah. No, and that goes back to our friends, the Pop Brothers at Law, the whole shut the fuck up, stick to the script.
I love those guys.
I love them.
That's what I tell my daughter.
I
have a 6-year-old. I'm like, what do you say to the police?
Yeah.
She says nothing. That's right.
So cool. So okay, let's say, I'm Joe Schmo, my employees did a walkthrough with the inspector. We've got 10 violations. What's your next step? What do you do next?
So you have an opportunity, usually, depending on the severity of the violation, right? If there's something that's going to be putting people at major risk, and we're just seeing that there's illegitimate product in the facility.
Okay.
There's consumption on site that we're walking right into. There's human trafficking, right? That's probably like we're shutting your doors immediately, or I would hope so. But then there's other little things that are just, you need to fix this.
Yeah.
We're going to put it out there. You have this many days. And again, depending on the severity, they're going to give it a certain amount of time that they can fix it and reply to them, usually.
So the sad part is, as a state, we've seen probably all those violations. Yeah.
Well, so New Mexico has an interesting political landscape. And so we do actually have an opportunity to look at everyone's NCAs. And so that's something else I don't think a lot of operators are aware of. Like, your stuff is published and it's public information.
The bad boys list.
All your mess ups.
Public.
And it's not even bad boys. Like,
some
this
of it's
shit
bullshit.
is hard.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just missed. There's a lot of things, right? But it has to be recorded. Inspectors are doing their job to ensure workforce safety, public safety, and environmental safety. The only issue that I have is, while New Mexico rolled out a prohibition and a Schedule 1 substance, they did not feel a responsibility to provide any type of training or knowledge to not only the other inspectors or, state regulatory departments that are going to be involved in all this process, but to the people who are actually in the field.
So what you're saying is they didn't structure a way for law enforcement and the regulators to actually take action against the ones not following the rules. Is that what you're saying?
They didn't. It's like the opportunity that you had to educate the state on manufacturing practices.
Correct.
Right? They had to go source you out.
Yeah.
Right. And the discussions I've had with the CCD, and I don't disagree with this, it is the operator's responsibility to make sure that they are following rule and regulation and that their workforce is trained to do so. What I don't agree with is the fact that this is 10 years old. This industry is 10 years old. And in New Mexico, it's what, 3, 4 now?
Going on 4, yeah.
Okay, going on 4. So like that's nice in any other type of instance. But again, this is still a federally illegal Schedule 1 substance, and we are rolling out of a prohibition. So for you as a state to think that you have no responsibility to ensure employee, environmental, and public safety by educating the workforce before they walk into the doors of these facilities, I don't agree with that perspective.
Yeah, no. And you know what's crazy? The whole it's brand new from a New Mexico regulator standpoint to take is kind of crazy, because we had one of the first medical programs back. I always fuck it up.
1978.
No, 2007.
Okay.
Yes,
we were people don't know we were the first state to ever sign in any type of medical cannabis use in 1978 by Governor Apodaca. But then 2007 is when you can actually start producing and consuming.
Yeah. So the med market, the medical cannabis dispensary, growing dispensary market, that whole thing started in 2007. So they did have a body of regulators, the DOH at the time, the DOH Cannabis Department, that regulated cannabis for a while. And soon as they did recreation, there was a shift and there was a changing of the guard. And I don't know the details, Google it, but almost all of those employees left. And there was issues, and there was, I want to say, lawsuits, and there was stuff that happened. And like I said, Google it. I'm not here to talk about that. But what I am here to talk about is that group kind of had some background. And granted, they had a small background on a small market, but they had still kind of figured a little bit of it out. So I think wiping those employees out or getting rid of those employees, having that changing of the guard, really hurt New Mexico's regulatory framework, is because, no, you're right. There's a bunch of, for lack of a better word, motherfuckers in there that don't know necessarily what they're doing with cannabis. And, they might be great people, and, shout out to all the, decent ones there. And they might have a really awesome, extensive background in other things, but they don't know cannabis.
Well, so actually there's a few people there now that do know cannabis, because they came from a very large company, Native Roots, that you have heard of, right?
Correct.
But the inspectors themselves, right? I sat with an inspector who shall not be named for 2 hours and presented the workforce training that I am trying to get the CCD to open up to, because it's so powerful and it could save us all so much money and so much pain. And he literally told me, you fixed everything. You fixed all my problems. I mean, I had the same exact response from one of the #1 criminologists here in America that's also a dean at MIT. You fixed everything.
Nice.
So, but they don't want to see the fix, because there's $20 million rolling grant right now in California that the Fish and Game is having to invest in to help cultivators who are not compliant, because maybe, or even it's something like we had here, you can have that, so it's not my microphone. We have a facility that's out in the boondocks, and now there's a dirt road that's being traveled on by 100 different cultivation assistants when nobody was out there before. And it's next to a stream that's now getting all the dirt sediment into it, and now it's affecting the salmon.
Great.
Right. So that's when I'm talking about environmental safety. These are the things that we're seeing after. I mean, how long has California's market been in play, really? Right. So after all these years now, $20 million rolling that can be refilled every year. Why wouldn't we invest that into the front end of things before we have to fix all this shit? I don't understand the mentality. I'm having a hard time.
No, that's
it makes sense.
That's a big deal. So you're in multiple states.
14.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how have you managed that?
I'm a busy little bee. Buzz. People need me, right? It's mostly been word of mouth, honestly. I try to become the educator, right? And I think this is too where even cannabis operators are going to really have to turn to this as being the educator out there, right? If we have new products and all this new technology coming out, right? Like terpenes. There's a whole new educational effort that's going to have to happen between the operator and the consumer about terpene consumption.
Yeah.
Right. And so that for us too, we want to be the number one educator out there and setting the standard.
They're barely cracking into flavorants and flavonoids. And, from a chemistry level, I mean, we've been talking about flavonoids and flavorants and everything else, the actual taste. Terpenes much more tap into more of the aromatics and the aroma
and the effect.
But so do the flavonoids, so do the other natural, and I'm going to make people cry, but natural solvents and different things in the plant, those are affecting us in different ways. And, Doc kind of cracked a huge egg open that, will send you on a rabbit hole. But he talked about the biological connections between terpenes and the connection between like estrogen and testosterone and the different hormones in the body.
Like different people that have like SMIs, like terpenes can affect it like your psychosis.
Yeah.
Right?
SMIs.
Yeah. Like different like,
mood disorders.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah. You know what I mean? And specifically, I've had friends and people close to me that were schizophrenic, and smoking didn't help that. And it almost would tap into kind of an episode for them. So no, I think, but we're not going to figure that out until we really open up, studies and research.
Which is happening, right? Stuff just came out of Harvard and MIT and things like that. That one study about what was there, like 60 patients, and it didn't affect like their cognitive behavior or their
motivation,
their long-term memory.
Yeah,
it'll affect the short for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's cool, and we're Jesh and I have done some stuff with some amazing people in the industry, and there's some awesome people connected with the Good Life Gang that are doing all kinds of different research, scientists, doctors, and really cool, cannabis culture loving people that are aimed towards figuring it out.
Breaking down the stigma.
Correct. And breaking down the medical stigma more than anything. We just, I was just reading something and I'm going to fucking butcher it, but basically it was this way that they're marking cannabis users on medical charts, and they're basically marking it as a disorder, is like they have cannabis use disorder, and I don't want
that sounds like discrimination, because every time somebody reports that they have 2 alcoholic beverages a week, are they putting them down to have alcoholism?
They are, in a sense. They're putting it down as an alcohol user, and where they draw that alcoholic stage or level, we don't know, but they are charting that. They are charting alcohol use. They are charting, I'm a smoker, I'm a cigarette smoker. They are charting, tobacco use. And now cannabis is being kind of looked at, in the same sense, but kind of being shown as an abuse because of course it's an illegal substance.
I've had experiences with doctors too, where they're like, do you smoke? Well, and you're like, oh, cannabis. And they're like, no, I don't care about that.
I've had the same. Yeah, they don't care.
And I think it's situational, obviously. And I'm sure it's whatever. And this specific person that was talking about it was on the East Coast.
Okay, that's a little bit different culture.
And we might be in a different place. But you still got to wonder. And, hopefully more research and more shit will come out that'll let the medical industry
I mean, it's not for everybody. You can't argue that it is.
No, you don't have to.
I think people have tried though. Like they're like, oh, it's totally safe. I'm like, not for everyone though. Like some people have like just like violent like hyperemesis, just throwing up immediately the way I do with tobacco.
Well, and see, I have a unique kind of take on that. And I think cannabinoids are for everyone. But
yes, because we have an endocannabinoid system.
Not psychoactive cannabinoids. So, and I've preached it before. There is power in, minor cannabinoids, and there is power in a lot of the other stuff that doesn't necessarily get you high.
I agree with that. I meant weed in general. THC, cannabis.
Getting high isn't for everybody. No, and I think that, neither is drinking, neither is, a lot of things. And, neither are fucking peanuts. Boatload of prescription medication.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not for somebody. And that doesn't mean it's not, in this case, for like good for a lot of people. And so you kind of have to like start to like, you'd think the country, the world would kind of have to really start to take it serious just because it's such a big deal to so many people around the fucking globe.
I think that's why they've been trying to cover it up though. Right? We're a huge threat to pharmaceutical industry. We're already seeing the effects on alcohol. Look at Generation Z. And you can speak more on this than me, obviously. But the way that they have dirtied tobacco is absolutely disgusting because it is
always been used ceremoniously.
Yeah. And then I will say, you're right. You're right. There is definitely a cleaner way to consume tobacco. But
it's what they've done to it.
Big
right?
tobacco is 4,000.
Dipping it in snake poison.
4,000 fucking chemicals.
Exactly.
And very far from the
like we were saying, they've trashed tobacco,
stuff.
And like now tobacco's not even really what tobacco is, and they've just totally taken something that was really beautiful and used in ceremonies and has a completely actually different attachment to the world.
Yeah.
Again, because of its power, they dirtied it up and they muddied it up.
Yeah.
Right.
For
just
the
like
dollar.
Cannabis.
Well, and humans are kind of like notorious for fucking everything up. So
well, the ones
just, especially the good stuff.
The ones that have been in charge, but there are good people out there, and especially I think with more access to things like cannabis and psilocybin that's out there right now, we're seeing a huge change in consciousness, a huge shift, and even us educating the generations before us, like you guys were lied to.
Yeah.
And then with all the truths that are being unveiled right now, and all types of different.
Oh man.
I can't even.
You've been lied to times 10.
I mean, and so they're really starting to be like, yeah, we've been lied. Like, okay, right?
Yeah. No, what a weird, horrible, kind of weird place we are as a world politically and, all that other shit. This is a cannabis industry podcast, so we won't get too hard into that. But yeah, what a weird place to be. But also like, we can smoke weed. So it's like,
we can sell weed.
We can sell weed.
And I can't, there is part of me that's like, there are people who have been incarcerated their whole life.
Yeah.
For things that I'm literally just talking on a podcast about publicly right now.
Yeah. Smoking on a podcast.
So
yeah.
Smoking on a podcast. Right. And so I cannot forget the where I'm at, like the luxury, the pure luxury I have and how blessed I am.
No, and hopefully the world will kind of right itself and correct itself, and hopefully good people will kind of break forward and, do the right thing and fix things. But
it's going to. It really is.
It has to. Good always wins.
Yeah. Someone told me that, sitting in a room with Big Tobacco, they asked him, when are they going to throw their hand into cannabis? And they're like, never. No, we're not. And then when he got him alone later, he's like, 7. Like, 7 what? And he's like, 7 years, 7. He's like 7 states. So once 7 states in the middle in the Bible Belt start to legalize, that is when.
Well, their facilities are already ready.
And they're all primed. And so it's
once Texas goes, it's all going.
Yeah. Well, and you got to wonder about those 7 states. And those 7 states are obviously probably major contributors to their financial fucking wheel there.
Agriculturally.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're not going to sell them out or, do anything before those states are ready. And that's interesting to see how like a certain area of the country has such a huge impact and how like big business goes down.
Right.
And how, laws are passed and different stuff and what is right or wrong, and you're right. That's probably like the Bible Belt area. And that's the same area where you can't get fucking full percentage alcohol, 3-2 beer or whatever it's called.
Right.
But the dry
Everybody
counties,
makes moonshine.
yeah, and it's those places are restricted and prohibited to this day in multiple different ways. So
Right.
when those places will truly fucking flip,
And it's not if, it's always when.
yeah. And it's when, for sure. And
totally
it's a
when.
changing of the guard. And it's literally the old guys and the old way of thinking. They have to kind of resign, die off, retire, fucking get out of the way. And
Yep.
and the new kind of guard, the new generation has to step in and do
Well,
something.
and how
about
I
it.
see it is that we're laying down the groundwork for what that looks like then,
Yeah.
Because right now we want to set the standards and everything for when they do actually take over, that, they know what to do, they know better practices, and don't just take it in and,
Yeah, I think that
fuck it up.
actually brings up
Jess,
a really,
what's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I think it brings up a good question because there seems to be like this weird kind of duality in looking forward with cannabis that I've noticed. And we talked about this with Cam, one of our past guests, who's a big guy out in Cali, does a lot of distillate processing. And, it's how far do we want to go with progress? And what is the cost of institutionalizing cannabis on the federal level? Because we all know that the pockets run really, really, really deep in Fed in general. And the people that are in those pockets tend to be big tobacco, big alcohol, big ag. And cannabis right now, even the biggest multi-state organizations in cannabis are still tiny in comparison to a Marlboro or an Anheuser-Busch. What kind of challenge is the culture and the current industry as it stands gonna face when we actually do reach this coveted federal legalization? And what consequences are we facing? And do we even want to go that far? Do we want to push for more of a states' rights? Do we want to leave it out of the federal hands?
I have been pushing the fact that I really think that they are trying to set us up for failure with these standards and safety and how it's affecting all of the things we've talked about, right? Because the FDA wants a reason to get themselves involved. And once that happens, it's a different game.
Well, and I am against the nationalizing of cannabis. And I do think that will interrupt the state programs and really kind of, in a sense, try to override the states' rights. And I'm hoping that, the way the country's supposed to be ran is individually by state. You know what I mean? We're supposed to be able to decide. We're fucking New Mexicans. We want it this way. We don't give a fuck what they do in California or Maine or Florida or whatever. And we vote for that, and we put in the people we want to lead our state. And then we vote for that, and they put shit on the board, and the state is ran the way New Mexicans want it. And that's how it's supposed to be. But I think the feds have a constant kind of, narrative where they step in when they want to.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I know of an initiative that brought $7 million into the state to remove Latino, Democratic seats, which is the main, constituents of our states, to bring in other mentality and super left side. They weren't left enough for them. And so, this is public, and I know Governor Apodaca, who I mentioned before, his son Jeff is like, you're not going to do that to my dad's legacy, because his dad was the first Latino governor, and his dad was the first to put, majority here, but minority nationally into larger seats, into more seats that had bigger voices.
You're not gonna have much hard time telling me that the politics are corrupt as fuck, because I'm with you there.
But that's where it starts, and so
it's bad.
So,
it's horrible.
But the more that we can demonstrate responsible practices in the industry, the less of a reason we give them to do that. Yeah. The less of a reason they don't have, so if we can all come together as a whole and get our shit together and really focus on how to do this the safest way. So it's like, ask me a question. That's what, please do. Mm-hmm. Okay, your interpretation, write the violation. What's it on? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because I am so confident in this, but it has to start from the workforce.
Yeah.
Everyone has to be equipped with the knowledge to fight this battle, because the more responsible practices we convey within the industry, the more respect the plant gets. And the more respect the plant gets, the more access the people have to it. And the more access the people have, the more that she can do in her healing of a nation in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why I do this boring SOP shit. Which is not that boring, actually.
It's not boring.
No.
I've had more fun with this than I ever would have expected.
To circle back to Jesh's kind of question, if the feds do take control of it, I don't think people know how serious it would get with GMP, good manufacturing practices, with
OSHA comes in immediately.
OSHA, with help me out, Jess, with ASM.
Well, OSHA's here no matter what. I'm sorry,
Well,
but like
OSHA's here no matter
like as
what.
a business owner, you still, depending on your state, if it's participating, like as a business owner, you still have to abide by OSHA.
It's much more than
in
that.
business.
It's I got a buddy of mine, and he's in Ireland right now. He's a chemist, and he's getting basically UA, the European certification out there for a laboratory. And he's going through just immense amounts of paperwork and just, SOPs on steroids in a sense, from, CAD drawings and functional flow charts and all this stuff that he's having to submit to get this clearance. And so you bet your ass, and like I said, you could, I'm sure, Google it or whatever. I'm not the expert on it, but if the feds come in, we get a lot more
Yes.
regulation, a lot more certifications and different things that small companies will need. Do you think the small company will be able to survive at that point?
No, they can't survive at this point, which is why I am committed to making our product accessible.
Yeah.
Because I know that my competitors are charging 3 times as much, but I also know that we're all working from the same templates.
Yeah.
They are too. And so I'm not going to charge my client ever for double. I'm not going to charge them for twice on the same research, right? If we're working in one municipality, I'm going to charge you for the research in that one municipality. But it's already out of reach.
Yeah.
And what compliance consultation right now, I think it's $275 an hour is like their going rate.
Yeah.
And are we worth it? Yes, but that adds up.
And a lot of these companies, back to your original comment, is they've already received action, right? They're calling you because we already inspected.
Well, hopefully we're with them before that and they never receive action, right? Because we put together these beautiful business Bibles that literally, I want to keep them at the surface level. I want all of my managers to be able to answer all of the questions or direct them to where to find it. And I want them on their way. And I want to run my business like that too, because it's less risk and it's good business practice. And these are my golden nuggets floating around. So why wouldn't I?
Yeah. No, that's cool. And listen up, guys. You guys fight for states' rights and hope that your state program, wherever you're at, is strong enough to withhold local business.
We're just going to start it. We're actually investing into this state with the program that we're putting together, and we are just going to offer it. We're just going to be here for the cannabis industry. Okay. Because if we don't, we won't. Yeah. We won't. So we're literally getting ready next quarter to just release workforce training.
Nice. What's the newest state you guys are working in? Arkansas.
Isn't that crazy?
So what's their program? What's the simple, not their whole program, but just med, rec.
I think they're getting into the rec right now, right? So
are they med already?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
But they're starting rec. And that's the opening of a lot of new businesses.
I don't know about a lot. Arkansas is pretty small, right? It's pretty small population. It's kind of like New Mexico.
MJ BizCon, I met a lot of people from like Mississippi, Arkansas. Yeah. They're all
pretty small.
Yeah. Very tiny, just a few of them. Yeah. And then, you have your friend in, is it Louisiana?
No.
Or where was it?
Mississippi, but
it's Mississippi.
So
it looks like in Arkansas, cannabis is illegal for recreational use.
Yes.
Medical use was legalized in 2016.
So are they starting?
They're starting their rec. I know that they're in a big lawsuit thing right now because they licensed out one testing facility. And unfortunately, all the money that Arkansas came up with to roll out their cannabis program, which is also like part of the state's issue, right? The CCD only had like $1 million to fund this, which is bullshit because where are our taxes going? And why aren't the taxes that we're being charged
wasn't it like a boasted $1 billion or something?
Exactly.
Didn't
Where
they
is
do
that
the whole
going?
1
Why is
billion?
none of that going towards giving the CCD what they need so they're not feeling so overstressed and they're not feeling so, because it was a pretty it was an intense environment.
Yeah.
Like walking in there, you can feel that they're overworked, they're overstressed, they have 14 inspectors.
See, and I heard 9, so they've gotten to 14.
That's when I was
Is that
there last.
official?
That's what came from the attorney.
Told. Yeah, 14.
And some of those might be inspectors in-house that are actually doing like the the license application work and renewal work, right? They might be
Yeah.
in there.
Well, they've sure found enough inspectors to come here multiple times.
Well, and see, that's a survey we're putting out too. I want to know.
Yeah.
And that's, again, why we have to come together as a community of
talk
business.
to each other.
Because I need to gather this data. Like, actually, guys, who has been inspected from the last 6 months to whatever year? How many
that's
times have
very
you been
true.
inspected?
So this news, so Larry Barker, so it made New Mexico cannabis got the attention of Larry Barker. And if you don't know who Larry Barker is, he's the local like news guy that busts everybody fucking up. And if you've been in New Mexico for 20 years, Jesh?
Yeah, he's been around. He's been around since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Larry Barker's
He's a staple.
an OG in the, shout out Larry Barker, but he went up and said, what the fuck? And he got his, news company to do a highlight on
The lawlessness of cannabis.
Yeah.
And I don't think that story was intended to be the way that it came out originally, just because of some things I know. I think it was really supposed to be going after the operator. And I think it turned.
It was fucking embarrassing as an industry member and as somebody that follows the law, that's compliant.
Upsetting.
I said the CCD have been here a bunch of times and we've had fucking great inspections and, no infractions and we've done awesome. And so, no, we pay our taxes. We're good old boys in the fucking cannabis industry. And so it's really disheartening to see so many motherfuckers not. And so many people just doing whatever the fuck they want. Garage dispensaries.
What
see
the
that
fuck?
shit, Jesh?
Yeah.
Fucking garage
But this
dispensaries.
guy's in his dispense. And how long did that go on?
It's long, too fucking long. And you know what? I'm not trying to be that kind of guy, but I am at the point where why do I got to follow the fucking rules? And why do I got to run my operation to a fucking T when this bullshit? You know how much money I could make if I sent fucking vans? We sent a bunch of Sprinter vans with our logos on the side of it, Jesh, around the fucking town selling fucking products. And said, well, we're fucking licensed. I got it at the shop. It's on the wall. We're fucking licensed. Everything's good. You know who we are, farmers. Come on. You don't want to fucking buy out of the Sprinter van? and
just for context, obviously we're getting ready to lay down responsibility here, but I mean, since 2022, it's way over 100 million that they've raked in tax revenue. And just since January, 35 million, almost 36 million. And I feel like 13 employees that they use to go around and regulate is absurdly
Can you
low.
look and see what the CCD's funding is?
Yeah, let's check it.
I just want a fucking van license. I just want a fucking van.
I was thinking Snoop or like.
Could you fucking imagine, Jesh? Party van, fucking consumption lounge, the whole nine. But the sad part is the ones following the rules, the ones that just read the fucking regulations, because that's at the end of the day, it's like you should definitely know if you are in cannabis and you are a licensed member of the community, you should know the laws. Just like if you are an adult in the fucking world, or if you get your driver's license,
The statement you said though at the very beginning of that. If you are a cannabis operator and you own a license, you should know the laws. That is so like what the CCD wants from these operators.
Yeah.
That's all they want.
Well, they're not getting it. Because they should have to take a test or something and show that they know the
what
laws.
you just said though is so true.
But who else should really know the laws is the regulators. And they should have the framework. They
should have the framework so that way the interpretation is pretty fucking consistent. Because having one person come in and then changing hats the next year and another person coming in and telling me, and this isn't every state, right? It's up to their interpretation. What the fuck is that? And then we let the courts decide.
I'd love to know the real reason why the old crew, the old DOH cannabis crew, fucking actually left. Why weren't they involved in the fucking new cannabis program? And I just think
there was a lot of things wrong with that program too. Okay, it never had any business being. The Department of Health is one department that should look at what the health department should look at. Okay, but then you get into agriculture and mold and plants and like plant health and all that stuff. Like that was way out of their realm. And
then why didn't the ag
CCD's
department
realms.
run it from the beginning?
But because they're different, just like any business would be inspected and looked at by different entities, like by different organizations. Cannabis is the same. So
I would think
Colorado,
we'd be connected more to agriculture.
You have
Josh?
the cultivation, like yes, but that's why all your scales have to be. You have to have a scale license from the Department of Agriculture. That is a department that we have to, like we do have to go by worker protection standards.
Yeah,
we do have to provide fit tests every single year for our employees for their respirators. We do have to make sure that they have a physical exam so their lungs can handle that job, right? Just so in case I get sued, even. Right. But also I do want to ensure the safety of my employees and the continued safety. So Department of Agriculture can come in at any time. Department of Health can come in. Zoning can come in. Fire department can come in. And then CCD needs to be focusing on what CCD does. But now they're getting into like OSHA can come in. So, but like where are the lines blurred? Because these what's fucking scary is they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Right. So in Colorado, I was being given a treatment application spray log by the Department of Agriculture, who was amazing out there in helping cannabis cultivators figure this the fuck out. And they've been awesome in hemp too. But what the MED was requiring, there was one field that was missing on that spray log. So every time that I was using the Department of Agriculture's log, I was non-compliant. Because they never had a fucking conversation. So that's what's like, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to this general workforce training and the general knowledge of anyone who's involved in these facilities knowing what they're looking for.
Well, in unfortunately, state organizations have notoriously been like not great at communicating with, the other parts of the state organizations. And so that's no wonder, you know what I mean, that the ag department doesn't talk to the environment department, doesn't talk to the, whatever. Seems like the Department of Environment now with cannabis has been getting a lot more involved.
They were him.
But they were.
Which was ridiculous too, because they had 2 people overseeing all of that.
Yeah.
2 people. And it was like, and then they were telling us too, with the testing, like, turn in your testing, like what you want to do, and we'll tell you whether or not you can test like that. Like how you want to pull your samples from the lots. And I'm like, whoa. So I turned in a bunch of different research from all over the country. I called and I got a bunch of the different hemp, I called testing facilities and got a bunch of the different hemp requirements and how they test. And I'm like, here's your but like, you tell me, dude, that's your job. I can't, what do you mean? How am I supposed to just suggest something? You tell me yes or no. It was the same with odor mitigation in Colorado. And I was the first person to get a cannabis odor mitigation plan passed by.
Have you ever seen one of those? Have you seen the nasal ranger?
What?
You have to pull this shit up.
You have to
the
pull it up,
ranger?
Pull it up on your phone right now.
The
nasal ranger.
It is too good to be true, and it's exactly what it sounds like.
Well, the first thing that came up after
It's
it
like
was
it's like a megaphone.
So I assume, oh my God.
It's a megaphone for your nose. How can you tell? Like,
look, bro.
What I'm wondering is, how do they test the person operating that? Do they have like an actual ENT's? Do they have an ENT?
Dude, immediately I think of Cheech and Chong, the fucking cops in the fucking van.
But you know what I'm saying?
Look at this guy, bro.
Does an ENT like say yes, they have the ability to smell like that?
Yeah, like why does that guy get to be the ENT? Yeah, it makes no sense.
That's what I'm saying. Is a doctor signing off on his ability to sniff?
Just
really to give him that tool? Like, is he like? How is he the right person to operate that?
Look, Your Honor, the fucking nasal ranger doesn't know what he's talking about. It doesn't smell in here. It's fucking fine. There's skunks under his house. He's an idiot.
I mean, yeah, but like, what
Or you could just
about
put skunks
interference
under your
like
house.
that? Literally, what if there is a skunk hiding
Just be like
between
him,
what if you
well,
literally
that source and
what if you
he's trying to
hibernate
sniff?
skunks under your house?
He's
just
got
to mitigate the
fucking
odor?
sulfur in his well, this bastard.
Dude, like, but what about interference? I mean, literally, it's like, oh, I'm 200 feet away from the building. I'm going to sniff at it. But between here and there in the tall grass, there's literally a skunk that's sending the signal through the roof. And he's like, dude, you're way out of compliance. It's like, no, there's a dead fucking skunk in the grass.
Doc would
and when
tear
this
this asshole
started-
apart in court.
When this started too, okay, we were at Grow Row there off I-70 and on Colorado Boulevard, and it's right next to like you walked outside and it was either weed, Cinnabon, those were good days when there was like the blend too, or fucking Purina dog food factory that was just across the street.
God.
And so only now are we mitigating odor with
What a
cannabis
mix.
when this fucking dead horse meat, whatever's been
What was
baked
the-
into the
what was the
atmosphere for how
town
many
that's in?
years?
That's Denver.
What
in
was the-
Denver.
There's another town right outside of Denver that's like fairly close to Denver that they have like 2 dog food factories in.
Sounds like a punk
And the
rock song.
whole town smells like dead animals.
And then they got upset about cannabis, and I'm like, okay, well, I'd rather smell weed than carcass.
So just to bring back, guys, the CCD was initially given 6.5 million, 3.2 million.
We were told 1 million, literally told that by someone
Well,
who
this
worked
has
there.
got.
That's what they built it.
So where'd the money go? Damn, is that going to
Maybe
be
they
Larry
did only get
Barker
1
too? Where'd the money
Also,
go?
where did they do with the fines? Because I know what 2.3 million. Can you look at this too? Sorry, I'm keeping you busy. 2.3 million, I think, was assessed in fines last year. What do they actually receive? Because a lot of people just end up closing their doors and never fucking pay.
I don't
Did
think
those
they
guys
get their
ever pay
fines
with that
paid.
$350,000 fine? Did they ever get that paid? No, they
don't
get
think-
their fines paid, or they don't have a license.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying the ones that they've closed down, I don't think they've gotten payment from any of them.
No, they won't.
But that's still, you said a lot of millions there, Jess. What happened to the money? Where'd the money go?
So yeah, this is like from a .gov too. So
Yeah, and they tell us to
You know
trust
it's
the
real.
.gov.
this is from the executive budget recommendations highlight. Yeah, so it's a lot, and they that was the initial funding in April. When they launched it.
Yeah.
And they are allowed to pull, not specifying the amount, from so far a $27 million pool of tax.
So
funds.
exactly, what are they doing with our money? And why aren't they offering the workforce training? Why aren't they offering some type of knowledge?
So I wonder who
operators.
allocates what they do with the money. Is that like a state treasurer?
And that's what I'm saying. Do we start a petition as operators that say, hey, actually, we're requesting workforce training with our tax dollars? Is that a constituent thing? Do we call our state senator? What do we do?
Yeah, I don't know.
All of the above?
That's out of my wheelhouse.
I'm trying to figure it out, man.
I make hash.
So I'm just going to start doing it.
and hash accessories. But there's something has to be done, because I think as a state we need to do better. It's weird right now. You're seeing a lot of, the other thing blasted with the Larry Barker thing is the stores closing. Separate from the Larry Barker thing was stores closing, and a lot of legacy guys, legacy names, whatever. I mean, multiple store companies closing their doors. And they really pushed the oversaturation, all that stuff. But a lot of them were just classic medical dispensaries, and they didn't really change a lot to the rec market.
Maybe they just had it enough. Maybe they were good with their ride.
Some of them, I
Maybe
think,
they
yes.
didn't want to take the rec ride. Maybe they watched everyone else take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, this was put up like this week, like last night or night before, where they're like, there's too many dispensaries, there's oversaturation, the dispensary owners are calling for less licenses. I'm like, whoa, who said that? No one, I don't know anyone that said that.
Do you think they'll put a moratorium on licenses? Do
Yeah.
you think the state will look at
or they'll just
stopping?
or they're just. I mean, who is buying a license right now? Really? I mean, like, why would you do that? right now?
Technically, under like the license is not transferable. So people are buying like infrastructure and build outs and different stuff like that, but they still have to license it under their own name and their own
they're getting
license.
They're getting a lot tougher on licensing, I think, especially after what we saw in the news, probably.
Oh yeah, I'm sure their ass is on the line.
But even still, we put in a 542-page application.
There are a lot of ghost licenses, right? People who are just holding on to them and building out and waiting for, there's still like a bigger wave coming. There's
You
another.
put in a 500 and some page application for.
For a testing facility.
Yeah, it's like 542 pages.
Honestly, it all comes down, no matter even if we vote the stuff into law, it all comes down to the NHO, to the neighborhood organization.
Yeah.
They're the ones one of our clients, I don't know, have you been over to Stoned Dispensary on Catherine, like San Mateo and Catherine?
I don't get out much.
It's a great little consumption lounge. They have bingo night.
Stone
They have
Desert?
Stone Desert, yeah.
I wanted to go by there. I haven't though.
Check it out.
Yeah, you should check it out. They've got food that they can bring in from their food truck out there. It's a cool little setup.
Okay.
But they're our clients, and we help them get through their consumption licensing.
Okay.
And I forgot what I was saying, but
it happens.
it hash bins.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like CCD compliance officers make not great money.
Exactly. So everyone give these guys a
39
break.
to 63 being the top.
Exactly. So give these
reported.
guys a break, because your inspectors really, the majority of them, they're trying to do the right thing, and we're all doing this for the first time too.
Yeah.
And and so something, I go around the country preaching about the power process and also owner responsibilities.
Yeah.
It is my responsibility as a CEO to make sure that my employees, my team, has all the tools that they need to succeed.
Yeah.
Right. And so if the state is falling short on their inspectors and they're not given the tools they need, the resources, or the enough people to actually handle the work.
Yeah, and just so
sucks.
To keep the record straight, all the ladies and gentlemen that has inspected our facility were awesome, and they were great. And like I said, we've been inspected, I mean, a ample amount of times. So I just, like I said, I really would like to see fairness across the board with no excuses. You know what I mean? Because the inspectors were great, nice professional people. We haven't had any like crazy run-ins or anything like that.
That means we have to call for data.
Yeah.
People have to participate.
Yeah.
We have to collect that data, and then we have to present it, and then we have to ask. We have to have a very clear ask.
Yep.
That makes sense, right? And we have to, and also, where's the money going, and what, and why, where's the 27 million, and what portion is being designated to these efforts? And I think we need to define what we want, because as constituents, we have the right to do that, but it all starts locally, and we have to come together as an industry.
No, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. And I think if we don't come together as an industry and we don't get the kinks and bullshit worked out, we're just going to fail. You know, I've used the term Oklahoma Junior before, you know, and Oklahoma did not do well, and they failed as an industry. And I just don't want
$15 to $32 billion illicit market in Oklahoma. That's like that's bigger than the whole country.
And you know
legal
what's,
country.
You know what's crazy is, you know, when regulations are put forward, the last thing they want is to like thrive the black market, you know, but that's, if they don't do it right,
California,
that's what happens, and it fucks the legal market.
60% illicit because they didn't allow counties to work together.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Well, we owe the plant and the people who put themselves before us to make sure that this gets rolled out the right way.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think a good piece to wrap this up, if we are wrapping this up,
yes, sir.
Would be, you know, since we've talked about a lot of challenges from a bunch of different perspectives, from a regulator's perspective, from a small business owner's perspective, from a large business owner's perspective, from a federal perspective, new people getting into the industry or people who are in the industry and struggling, what are the top 3 or top 4, if there's is 4, what are the most paramount things that you should cover? And this could be anything from employee training to initial consulting to product quality. What are the most important things to have longevity in your business and make sure it stays safe and in the good graces of regulators?
I have one answer for all of that. And it's literally, the answer lies within the process. It's all about sitting down and defining your entire process. Right. And that's really hard to do when you've never even done anything before, when you're just opening up. So I think that's one of the things that's really different about our company, is that we provide those templates. So you can see a general outline. Oh, okay. We're looking for facility management, facility security, facility maintenance, plant care, IPM,
So you offer in
categories.
bundles.
We offer in
basically,
bundles per facility type, right?
depending on what kind of business
Operation
you
you're
do.
running
Yeah.
and vertical and whatever your needs are. And we're actually expanding outside of cannabis too, because it's partnering with the right document management system for your facility, because maintenance is going to be your biggest key. So you need to establish process. So I guess that's answer one, the maintenance of that process. And then which would be the employee training, keeping up with the documentation, all of that. And then the culture, setting that culture as a compliant culture, but fun. We're here to fucking grow weed and sell weed.
Yeah. Is technology irrelevant in that conversation?
Technology is super irrelevant because of the document management, right? That we talked about in the process.
It could be paper
and the
documents
maintenance.
as long as it's
No, it
maintained
can't be
properly.
paper, guys.
Well, that's
It
what I mean.
can't.
Is technology relevant?
Totally, because
So, do you want a digital ERP system over paper and pen?
So at Build My SOP, we attach all of our SOPs to actions like, editing and then version control, because that's really important, especially if you have a product recall and you need to prove that 6 months ago you didn't have sulfur in the building.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's no way that could have been contaminated with sulfur at your facility. That was cross-contamination if it crossed hands somewhere else. Right. Little things like that. And then you need to be able to attach those SOPs to your employee training records. And then you need to be able to also identify when your employees fall outside of those SOPs. So we have we have our own write-up corrective action or commendation for reviews, because everything's connected to process. So I found that there's a really big gap between the operator who has to maintain all of this documentation in an ever-changing landscape, because the rules are changing constantly. The employees, 40% turnover rate. I'm constantly educating and re-educating, right?
That's huge.
It's huge.
Turnover
That's where the culture comes in.
It's costing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year
That's where
to you
culture
guys.
comes
Yeah.
in, right? Is employee retention.
So
long-term
do you have a training kind of segment to what you guys do?
It all literally lines up like this on our system. Yeah. Because I was finding somebody who was overseeing 9-10 facilities at a time. Everything was about process. And then I needed these things to connect to process, right? I needed to do reviews. Your employees want to be acknowledged. They want to be recognized. They want to talk, good incentives are so much more powerful. Positivity is so much more powerful. Because we all want to grow too. I think that's part of being just a human.
Yeah. So.
And you want to see opportunity for that growth to stick around, because if you're stagnant too, then we're losing great employees there.
Yeah.
So on our team, I really try to identify what are the things you want to do? What are the things you don't want to do? Okay, can I outsource that? Who the fuck wants to work in a CRM system?
Yeah.
Right? I need her kissing babies, shaking hands. I need you to do the things you like to do, because
CRMs are terrible.
it's going to show in the quality of your work that you don't like to do it. So don't ask your grower to do metric or BioTrack. They don't want to fucking do that.
Yeah.
That's not why they're there. They're there to be with the plant. And so I want to find somebody who's really good with numbers and detective work. I need somebody who can sit on a system for 8 or 9 hours. And that's because that's a really important job for me.
So do you help actually source employees for these companies?
We know
too?
everybody who is the expert at those things though. So if you need a trusted person to
come in and
do that for you, then we know the company.
Yeah, but it's also the compliance binder goes digital. Everyone's keeping this really messy, usually outdated binder,
which can be dangerous. You can get in more trouble for having outdated information than nothing at all.
Shit, I started farmers on a fucking whiteboard and busted a notebook with a big old oil stain down the side of it. So
I was doing Word documents. I probably sold about 6 dozen of those around the country before we actually got the system. And what I was saying before about that hole, right, between the operator and then all the document management that we have to maintain and then be able to give to readily available to regulatory departments of any type, owners, bankers, insurance companies, lawyers, attorneys.
Yeah. No, that's huge. And that can take a lot of time for an employee or multiple employees out of their day to go through, admin employees to go through and look at that shit and go back and forth. Cool. So I guess the last ask is, where can people find you? How do they get a hold of you? If they're interested in your services?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. BuildMySOP.com. Yeah.
Nice.
My number's on there. I'm Kady. So
awesome.
Feel free to call us or email us.
They'll be linked in the description.
Yeah.
Of course.
hello@BuildMySOP.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming down.
Thanks for your help.
You've got some awesome insight and seems like your company really can offer a lot of different things to different companies. So yeah, hopefully you guys do great and we'll see you soon.
Cool. See you soon. Thanks for having us.